Alright, so I think I wouldn't say I've systemized, but I think I've found most of the high percentage, and I think most of, like, in general, the moves from the high tripod, so the Chenpod and the wrong side Chenpod. And also what I have, most of it with the help of my dear friend Ethan Constant. He fought at Karate Combat, I think yesterday or before yesterday, against Jordan Levitt, and he hit 2 slick sequences, passing basically like half butterfly or passing butterfly to headquarters into half butterfly, all with an upper body control and with a leg pummeling. So that's exactly what I was looking for, with the Chenpods, with the the high tripods over the butterfly guard. So over the butterfly guard as well, because I think now I'll say, because I'm still kind of workshopping from the end stage, so when I already have the Chenpod or wrong side Chenpod or like crossface underhook, and from there I'll go through the options. But I still need to figure out how to actually get there. Like from headquarters, I like getting the underhook and then beating the knee. I like from split squat, switching the base and getting the near side underhook. What has been working well is if I'm in top half guard and the person sits up for an underhook, that basically, for a far side underhook, right? So like a wrestle up for a dogfight, that basically opens, because to get an underhook they have to go for an elbow prop, right? And when they go for an elbow prop, that opens the near side underhook for me, and then I can switch my hips. And ideally the knee has already been beaten. Well, when they're sitting up for the underhook, and I get the near side underhook, then I'll be switching my hips and getting the head positioning, and the chin pod's there. I gotta get some entries in from like J-point stuff and like from loose passing. Again said, I don't really do body lock passing, but that looks like a very good connection, because with the body lock you do have double unders. Well, not necessarily double unders, but you have a connection to their hips, and that can be easily translated to double unders, or at least a single underhook. So I'll have to experiment with the body lock passing as well. But right now, about the options from the Chenpod and the wrong side. Again, one thing before that, I think for the wrong side Chenpod, the best thing would be not to keep the underhook and head positioning, but switch to an underhook and a crossface. So bring your head across, get a crossface, and bring your head to the same side as your underhook. So this was mostly inspired by Ethan against Jordan Levitt, but I have also been having success with that, passing with an underhook and crossface, even the butterfly guard, like just pummeling through. So what I feel is the wrong side Chenpod, when the opponent has the hook on the side of your underhook instead of going with the head block, because you can still do it. I have to experiment, but I feel that the underhook and crossface, if you're then really convex and really pressuring into them, really pinning their shoulders and upper body to the floor, it's much tighter than just head positioning. So, and as well, if you pass, you have to pass to mount, or if you do one of the back steps over the butterfly hook, which I'll say later, but then you end up in side control with a crossface and underhook, and that's basically a free mount. So that was exactly the sequence that Ethan hit twice. He had a underhook and crossface, and he baited stepping up with stepping over the butterfly hook, and then he quickly pummeled back over the butterfly hook to side control, and because he had a tight crossface and underhook, it was a free mount twice. So it was actually a very similar sequence both times. Alright, so I'll say about the Chenpod right now, and then about the wrong side Chenpod I'll think about it a bit more, but I think all of the options remain the same. Right, so you have a near side underhook. On the near side underhook side, you've beaten the knee and you're pinching it, and the head positioning on the opposite side of your underhook. and on that side your opponent has the butterfly hook. Chenpod. Right. What can you do from there? So, first I'll address if the person brings in a Yoko Sumigaeshi hook. So if they bring their second knee in to almost like a smash pass, which I mean it looks deceptively shit, but if you're not paying attention, they can sweep you very well. So if you're because especially with your head positioning, they can get a strong lat grip, and with Yoko Sumigaeshi, they can just send you over. So from there, what I saw Joseph do was he used his secondary. So alright, I have with my left hand I have the underhook. The butterfly hook is on my right side, so my left leg is the one that's beaten the hip, and then the right one is where the butterfly hook is inserted. So what Joseph did was, when the Yoko Sumigaeshi hook was brought in, was his right leg, so the one where the butterfly hook was inserted, but he tried to step over with the opponent has the butterfly hook on my right leg, right? So I'm trying to step over, and then the opponent brings his right leg, so the second butterfly hook, he brings it in. So then I use my left leg to de-stickify or pummel my instep on top of the Yoko Sumigaeshi hook, and then backstep to a side control, and again with a strong crossface and underhook. So that's not necessarily the options of them, but that's a kind of a specific reaction that you ought to be ready for. And as well, also you have to be wary of the opponent trying to control your head, so going for various types of front headlocks, going for like a 100%er, because your head is on the floor and you have an underhook, so keep your second hand tight, don't let him get 100%er, and headlock as well. Right now, for the options. So, the most common and the easiest one, if your opponent is sleeping, you're putting him flat, you have a good Chenpod, you use your free hand to push on their knee, and you step over to mount. Right? That's if they're doing absolutely nothing. Second of all, if they're framing on your knee, what you can use is you post in their armpit basically with a C grip, and then instead of using your hand to push down their knee, you use your elbow. So you're posting on their maybe you can't really reach their armpit, because you need your arm to be bent to push their knee down with your elbow. So maybe you're posting on their hip or whatever, or you're beating their hand, you're controlling their wrist. So of course they don't want you to just step over the butterfly hook, so they'll be framing on it. So if you can, you want to get a grip on their wrist and pin their wrist to the floor. And then while pinning their wrist to the floor, you keep that grip, you bend your elbow to 90 degrees, and then with your elbow you push their knee down and you step over. I believe Joseph shows this, or I'm not necessarily sure what he does with the hand, but that's basically pushing down the opponent's knee with the elbow and stepping over. Right, that's two basic passes from there. Now, second, which kind of ties in to the step over, is kind of a basic dilemma from there, you could say, because if you go for the step over and the opponent just brings their knees to chest as tight as they can, what you can do is you can basically backstep over the butterfly hook to a side control, again with a strong, I mean in that case you would have a near side underhook, but still. So again, now your left hand is the underhook, on your right leg is the butterfly hook. So you're trying to step over, you're maybe posting on their hip, and with your elbow you're pushing their knee down, but they beat that grip, and now they're just using their left butterfly hook to be as tight to their chest as possible, to the one that's on your right leg. So what you do is you bait the step over, you try to step over, it gets stuck on the butterfly hook, and then you open up your knee, so you put it into hold 2, so that their hook is not as sticky. Alright, so just open your hip hold to, right? So your knee is outside your hip and heel line, and then what you do is you do a pommel back. So it's not even necessarily a back step, but you open up so that the butterfly hook is not as sticky, but you're still pinning them, and then you back step over. And the important part is when you're back stepping, so that you beat the opponent's knee with your knee, right? So that this can be various steps. So it can be either a back step to or back pommel to knee on belly, or it can be a back pommel to side control, depending. So what does it depend on? Like with your left leg, you're already beating their knee, right? Imagine. So when you back step, you can either bring your knee near your left knee, and then since that knee has already beaten the opponent's right knee, then you will end up in side control. Or if you do the back pommel, while you do the back pommel, you beat your knee, so you bring your knee in front of the opponent's knee. So the knee that's the butterfly hook, right? This is kind of hard to explain, but so you open up your knee, you pommel out to an instep pommel, but you're still in hold too, right? So your hip is opened up. So then you can use that to go over your opponent's knee into knee and belly with a knee and belly with a near side underhook and head positioning, right? Or when you pommel and you can't beat the opponent's knee, so you have your shin. So basically, the opponent's shin is straight, right? And then with your right leg, when you open it up, you're making like a cross with your shin, right? With your shins. So the opponent's shin is straight, and then yours is making a cross basically. So then with that cross, if you can bring your knee over the opponent's knee, you'll end up in knee and belly. Or if you fully backstep, not backstep again. If you bring your knee and you can't beat the opponent's knee, you just bring it back, and then you'll end up in side control. So that's what Ethan did twice, but he did it from a wrong side Chenpod. So then he had a far side on it, because when we're doing this, then we'll end up with a near side underhook from side control. But Ethan was doing it from a wrong side Chenpod, so he ended up with a crossface and far side underhook, which allowed him to mount. But Joseph also did this in his trials run. I have a clip of that. So, what did I talk about? Step over and 2 pommels back, right? So, we haven't even gotten to the interesting stuff yet. So now, there are 2 or 3 more pommels, which are my favorite in this position. So one, which I've been playing around with, which Joseph hit on Andrew Tackett, but in that position he was more float passing, so he didn't have upper body control, therefore it was not a pass. But I do think this has huge potential, and I have hit this 2 or 3 times against good people. So I mean, Max, Dimi, Amelie, I've hit it a few times. So this is the ankle pommel over the butterfly hook. So how you do this is, for most of these pommels, you are gonna have to open up your knee to a hold to, right? So bring your knee out of the hip, of the line of your hip and heel, right? So yeah. So when you bring it, So again, imagine you're in Chenpod. Again, this is probably better if you're in a wrong side Chenpod though, or if you're in because when you're in a Chenpod, again, left hand underhook on your right hip leg, the opponent has a butterfly hook from there. It can work, but I do find it's better from the wrong side Chenpod, where the underhook, the butterfly hook of the opponent is on the same side as your underhook. But anyway, I'll tell it from the Chenpod side. So you open up your again, as I said, to hold to, you open up your hip, and then you bring your ankle. I mean, yeah, it's kind of hard to explain, but it's also pretty self-explanatory. So you bring it over the butterfly hook, right? So you bring your ankle over the butterfly hook and you put it on the floor. So your legs are crossed, but so are your opponents, and they can't really hold on to the leg that was under your other leg. so they can't really hold on to that one. And since their legs are crossed and your legs are crossed, it is basically, mostly guaranteed pass if you are controlling the upper body. This is also a good way to create movement from headquarters. I've noticed, right, if you're float passing and you're stapling the opponent's so again, for example, I'm stapling the opponent with my left leg, I'm stapling, and on my right hip there's the butterfly hook. So if I can open my hip up, if I can maybe threaten going to the other side for a knee cut, and then they a bit overcompensate, so they close their knee up a bit instead of going for a smash pass or for a hip switch, which I feel, when you land them, it's like wow, but they are less control. So you can open up your hip and just bring your ankle over the butterfly hook and to the floor, and then it's basically, it's a good way to create movement, and it is almost basically over. Because both of their legs are crossed, you can extract your bottom foot. I would be looking for upper body controls when I've hit that, but it is also a good way to go like side to side. This is the ankle pummel over. Now there are also a few pummels which I haven't really had much success with, but this would be probably the traditional like Gordon attacking the guard 1.0. So again, I'm in a Chenpod left underhook, right on my right leg. There's the butterfly hook. So when you can pummel in. So that is if you have good base. There is, but you can pummel in. So you're right. With your right shin, you pummel in your instep on top of the butterfly hook, and then again you have basically 3 choices. So there is a dilemma, but there's also just a choice for you. You can, since you're already controlling the upper body very well, and it can't really spaz out, what you can do is threat them smashing both of their legs together, right? Because their upper body's pinned. So when you pummel in your instep, you can try to get your knee outside your opponent's knee, and then threaten basically like a knee cut over both of their knees. So you just bring both of their knees together and smash them. If you get it, great. But most people will, fight it and try to spread their knees, and then that's when you pummel your knee in between. So how the previous one was you were pummeling your ankle, but here you're actually. So when you were pummeling your ankle, you were keeping the knee in place, right? And you were bringing the ankle over. But here, you're stabilizing your ankle, and you're pummeling your knee. Alright? So, again, you're pinning them with the head positioning a bit to one side. You pummel in your instep on their shin. And the first thing you should try to do is, again, you could try to first pummel in, they open up, and then you smash the legs. But anyway, you try to smash the legs, they open up their legs, and then with the instep pummel control, you raise your hip. Again, this is all easier to do if you're on hull too. You open up your hip, and then you bring your knee over your opponent's knee, right? So over the knee of their butterfly hook. So then you have 2 choices. Since you have the near side underhook, right? Going for a knee cut, I don't think is a great idea, right? Because they can get the underhook. So these last 3, I would prefer doing them from wrong side Chenpod. Since then you have the still the far side underhook, or maybe even you're doing it with a crossface. So then that changes a bit. But if you are doing it right here, I would prefer going to a straight hip. So when you pummel your knee in over your opponent's knee, you end up in a straight hip, right? So that is basically either 3/4 mount, or you can already pull your ankle through and go to full mount, or then you can go to a cross hip, but then again, it would be basically like a knee cut, but you have a near side underhook and a head position. So I don't know how effective that really is in preventing a wrestle up. So those are the options from a Chenpod. I'll repeat all of them, and then I'll say again what you can do from a wrong side Chenpod, what I would prefer, and upper body controls. So here, for the upper body controls, I mean, of course, you need the underhook and you need the head position. But what I've been playing with lately is just locking my hands. Even if I don't get double underhooks, just locking my hands under the opponent's back, I feel it's much more tight. If you don't, just flare your knee out, flare your underhook out rather, and keep it tight. Keep it glued to your. If you're not connecting your hands, keep your underhook on your opponent's far trap, right? So it's holding on to something. It's not just on the floor. So again, your underhook connecting to your opponent's far trap, your head positioning. Yep. And what I like to do, again, if I don't get the double underhooks, is what I've been calling the goose grip. So it's basically just like, imagine bending your wrist 90 degrees. It looks like a goose to me, right? So, but basically just put this on your opponent's like bicep or around the bicep or chest, whatever. So it basically doesn't really allow them to push on your knee. So I've been liking that if they're not pushing, and if I'm not pinning their wrist and using my elbow to push down their knee, what I've been doing is just kind of riding their hand. So I have the goose grip. I'm basically riding from their forearm to their bicep, right? So you don't really need to get the shoulder because that doesn't really control anything. So I would say from the bicep down. So if they're really reaching with their hand and you're on the bicep, you just go to the end of the lever, you go to the forearm, you go to the wrist. Again, if they have the underhook, it's not really a big deal because you're pinning them so effectively. But while I'm passing, I do like to fight with that free hand to get either the goose grip or the second underhook. And my first underhook connected on their trap, if not double underhooks connected under their back. Right, so your primary attack would be stepping over if they're just doing nothing. Then, if they're keeping their knees to chest, then you use your hand to push the knee down, and then you step over to mount. Right, now if they're framing and not allowing that, you grab their wrist, pin their wrist to the floor, and use your elbow to push their knee down and step over that. Right, 3 ways to get to mount with a step over method. Now, if they're, again, a side tangent, but if they bring in a Yoko Sumigaeshi hook, use your other leg to perform an instep pummel over the top to de-stickify it, and then you can backstep, or you can try to smash the legs together. So it's a Yoko Sumigaeshi hook. I mean, yeah, if you're comfortable with that, you can thread your knee through, go to kind of a dope mount. But I mean, yeah, I would be wary of the false sweep from there and all those types of entries. But I've lost my. So if they're keeping their knees to chest and you are controlling your their hand, for example, you can push. You can get your knee into halt 2 and do a back pummel. So you can pummel over their instep so it makes a cross. So theirs is straight and yours is the cross. So, and then you can either bring your knee back to your left knee, so your trail knee, which has beaten is beating the opponent's secondary leg. You can bring it there for side control, or if you beat the opponent's knee, you can go to knee and belly. So again, you perform an instep pummel to an X, to a cross. So an X would be tilted to the side. A cross is a cross, right? So one straight, one line. So you perform a pummel to a cross position. Then from the cross position, you can either pull your knee back to your secondary knee to side control, or you can, if you manage to, from the cross position, to pummel your knee over your opponent's knee, you end up in knee and belly. Alright, so now for the pummels. Again, if you're pinning them adequately and you're controlling, you don't really even need to be controlling their hand, but whatever, you're pinning them adequately, you can bring your right leg, or the one where the butterfly hook is inserted, into a hold 2 position. And from a hold 2 position, you can use your ankle to go over the butterfly hook, smashing the opponent's both knees together, and then pass from there. Also, you can flare your knee out to hold too, and pummel in your instep on top of the opponent's instep, so it wouldn't really be a cross there. I mean, yeah, depending on how deep you get, it would be kind of a cross. And from there, you can either go to a straight hip and fight to mount or 3/4 mount, or you could go to a cross hip. So there, you're not actually pummeling in your ankle, right? You're staying your ankle in place, and then you raise your knee and bring it over the opponent's knee of the butterfly hook. And then you can. You also have the 3 options, right? You can. I didn't mention. So from the first time, when you pummel your instep over, what your primary threat should be is smashing both legs together, right? Because you're painting the upper body, and you're on the end of the lever of their chin. So you can try to bring both of their knees together, and when they flare their knees out, that's the reaction for you to try to pummel your knee over their knee. And then you can either go to a straight hip, so that would be 3/4 mount or mount, depending on how fast they are with trapping your ankle, or you can go to a cross hip. Again, yeah, you may try to do the same back pummel to side control, but I think it's harder because when you're pummeling in your knee, you can get to from the pummel, you can get to a straight hip, and then you can flick your ankle back to the side control. I guess that's possible, but when you perform a pummel to a cross hip, I don't think you can really then flick your instep as much. So again, one more option would be when you pummel your knee over, then to a straight hip, you can try to flick your shin out, so kind of bring it up from the instep pummel and go it across. So that would be kind of a knee on belly / side control position. Right. So this was basically all of the Chenpod attacks. Now I'll be talking about the wrong side Chenpod and why I prefer using an underhook and crossface from there. And again, some of the attacks, I mean, there aren't really more, I would say, per se, but what becomes a bit more effective if you are using a wrong side Chenpod. Oh yeah, again, if they pummel with their lower legs for an X guard or a reverse X guard, you can get a scoop on the X guard hook and just go to the side and beat their knee, and then you're in side control. It's hard to describe. I think I've got a few footages of that with Demi maybe, but yeah. Again, so wrong side Chenpod. So this is the same thing as the Chenpod. Again, let's imagine on my left knee, I've beaten. It's on their hip. They have their right side butterfly hook on my right leg, but instead of a near side underhook, I have a far side underhook in head position. So now I have the underhook on the same side of the opponent's butterfly hook. So I have with my right-handed underhook, and with my on the left side, where I have my knees already beaten, I have the head position. So this is why I would argue that a crossface fits better. So again, I saw Ethan using this. I've been having success with it from, necessarily from a butterfly guard. Then I would be splitting the legs, and then I would mostly end up in a wrong side Chenpod. But still, I just feel, there's not really like concrete anything. I do think that double underhooks would be the best, since that allows you to like really lock under your opponent's back or under their neck even, and then if you're flaring both elbows out, you can basically freely switch from a Chenpod or a wrong side Chenpod, basically just switching your head position, and that determines it. But if you can now get double underhooks. Single underhook I think then an underhook and a head position would be better for a Chenpod, and but I mean still, it's difficult. I have to decide when to use a underhook and when to use an underhook in a head position, and when to use an underhook and a crossface, because both have their advantages. But so both have their pros and cons, or advantages and disadvantages, but I mean, yeah. So what my understanding is basically, when you have a butterfly hook inserted on you, you want to go into it, right? Where you go away from a butterfly hook, that's when it gains most of its power. So you kind of want to smash the butterfly hook. So from the position where I have on my right hand an underhook, and also on my right hip is the underhook, I think bringing the head over, it will bring my center of mass will be piked up. So, because it is a tripod, right? Or quad pod, whatever. If you're framing with your then free arm, kind of a forearm frame, you could consider that a quad pod, but still. I feel that with an underhook and crossface and my head on the underhook side, it gives me more control, and I feel that I smashed the butterfly hook more. So yeah, it's still. I mean, then you could make the argument that from a Chenpod, also an underhook and a crossface would be better, since, like, imagine again, I have done an underhook with my left, and but then my head would be on the left side if I had the underhook. So yeah, so the Chenpod is better with an underhook, because again, wait, let me think about this. So with the Chenpod, I have my head on the side of the butterfly hook, and with the wrong side Chenpod, I also have. So what I'm realizing is I want to smash the butterfly hook, right? So I don't want to be running away from it. I want to be on top of it. Therefore, I want my head to be on the side that the butterfly hook is on, right? So that's what I'm thinking right now. So from a Chenpod, with an underhook and a opposite head position, that's what I get, right? So because then on my right leg there's a butterfly hook, and that's the side of the head position. But from a wrong side Chenpod, when I have the right side underhook, if I were to get an underhook and a head block, it still could work, but it might give the opponent's butterfly hook a bit too much power. Therefore, when I go for an underhook and a crossface, and I bring my head to the side of the underhook, then I can really tripod up, and the butterfly hook loses all of its effectiveness. Alright, yeah. That would be the working theory then. So, what are the attacks? So, they do mostly stay the same, first of all, but the problem is that you don't have your hand. I mean, you have your free hand to base on the opposite side if you are using an underhook. But if you are using an underhook, and a head position, that's when you can base more. But if you're using an underhook and a crossface, it's basically only your leg work and leg pummeling, getting past the guard. So if you have an underhook on the side of your opponent's butterfly hook, and you have a crossface, what I believe your best course of action would be then is to first threaten the ankle pummel step over. So you open up your knee to haul to. Again, you could try to just step over the opponent's hook, but it would be hard since they can just freely push on your knee, and you can't really. Wait. No, so on the side. So from wrong side Chenpod, I would have the underhook on the side of the butterfly hook. So they can't even really they can kind of push, but it's not really a push. So I guess the step over threat would be more legitimate. So if you're flaring the underhook and you have an underhook and a crossface, you're flaring your underhook out with a crossface, really controlling that, locking a tight grip under the opponent's neck or so, or back. You can try to bait the step over. Again, you don't really have all of that, like pushing the knee. You may try to. No, it would be a bad idea to push with your elbow, because then you would have to pinch in your underhook, and that could then the opponent could pummel in. And when they have an underhook and a butterfly hook on one side, that would be folly. So you have the underhook on that side. You're trying to pinch it in. You're trying to flare it out, rather control. Get a tight grip. So you bait. Again, you do try to step over, But if it does fail, then you do the back pommel to either knee on belly or side control. That's what Ethan did. So he good control, tripod it up. You try to step over. The opponent brings their knee to their chest. So then you bring your heel to your butt, perform a back pommel over their shin. If you you get into the cross position, right? So then if from there you can beat their knee, great. You can bring your knee over their knee, then you end up in a knee on belly. If you don't, you just bring your knee to your secondary knee, and then you're in side control, and from there you have a crossface and an underhook, and that's an easy pass to mount. Or if you can pommel, it can be a bit more fancy. When you pommel, you try to bait the step over, they bring their knee to your chest, you pommel to the cross position, and then from there, when you beat the knee, instead of going for a knee on belly, you can go to a straight hip, right? And then when you go to a straight hip, you have the underhook and the crossface. They may try to lock a half guard, a 3/4 guard, but then you can just tripod up with your head and use your secondary instep to push that off. So that's also a mount. So there are basically 3 different ways to get the mount from there. 4 even. So the first one, you threaten just stepping over the butterfly hook, then bring their knee tight to their chest, or they get stepped over. Then you pommel to the cross position. So from the cross position, you can then bring your knee, your shin behind, and then your knee to your secondary knee. You end up in a side control with an underhook and crossface. Good passing position. Or you beat the opponent's knee and you end up in a knee on belly. So without switching anything, you have the cross pommel. You just bring up, and you bring your knee over the opponent's knee. You end up in a knee on belly with a crossface and a far side underhook. Also basically a free pass to mount. Or you can with an underhook and a crossface from the X position, from the cross position rather, you can use. So basically from an X position. Every time I mess up. So from the cross position, you can kind of flare your knee in, right? So the cross kind of disappears. So you activate your instep. So you dorsiflex it, right? And then you turn the cross pommel into a instep pommel, right? So you have an instep pommel on the butterfly hook with a crossface and underhook, and then from there you can go either straight hip, so as I said 3/4 mount, or it would be an easiest thing to pike your hips up to a high tripod and use your second instep to peel if the opponent does decide to lock a 3/4 guard or 3/4 mount, quarter guard then, or you can go to then the far hip with your knee. So again, you have an instep pommel, so it's no longer the cross position. The cross position was when the opponent brought their knee to their chest. Then you just lift your you try to step over, and you get yourself into Hall 2, and you bring your shin across your opponent's shin. That would be the X position. Then from there you go either side control, or you beat their knee to a knee on belly. Now you've pinched your knee in, and now you just have an instep pommel from the wrong side Chenpod with a crossface and underhook. So from there you can, when you beat the knee, you can go to a straight hip, or you can go to a cross hip, and both are good. Since the straight hip, again, as I said, like I think 3 times in a row now, it will be basically a 3/4 mount if that one locks it, or it would be just a pass to mount, or that would be an easy thing to peel the legs with your secondary instep. Or you can go to a cross hip, and from a cross hip you have a crossface and an underhook. You can transfer that to a underhook and a head block, and then you can complete the knee cut from there. Right. So that would be my primary strategy. That is what I thought Ethan hit quite a bit. You can also, if you get double underhooks from the wrong side Chenpod, you can elect to switch your head position and end up in a normal Chenpod with double underhooks. But again, I'm not sure which one is stronger. I think both are just good positions with good passing opportunities. From the Chenpod, you can probably fry your marinate your opponent a bit more. But from a wrong side Chenpod, especially with an underhook and crossface, it's more of an immediate threat. You just bam, 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 just pummeling, passing with your legs, and your opponent is in immediate danger, and they're most likely getting past. So again, that would be, I think, the primary threat. You With your tight upper body positioning, you threaten to step over to mount, and you pummel to an cross position. From there, you can either go side control or knee and belly if you beat the opponent's knee. If you don't, again, side control and pass. Then you can go to a normal instep pummel, so pinch your knee a bit in, bringing it to kind of a hull 0 or maybe even a hull 1. No, not really a hull. Well, wait. It would be... Yeah, you could say you can bring it into a hull 1, your top instep pummel. Then you go either straight hip to a 3/4 mount, or cross hip to a kneecap position, both of which are probably passes. Again, you can try to just open your knee up. If you're with adequate upper body control, you can try to open your knee up to a hull 2 and do the ankle pummel over the butterfly hook. I'm a big fan of that. Leaves the opponent flanked if they do nothing, because when you bring both of their knees to one side, their body also naturally goes to that side. So if they're not quick and you peel the bottom leg control, you can then hunt for their back. That's good. If you're low on time or something, and you don't want to solidify the pass, there's also back exposure, solid back exposure, from the ankle pummel over. So again, yeah, those would be my primary passes: step over, the cross shin position, and the cross leg fucking Jesus Christ, right? So X but flipped, right? And so back step, Ethan, ankle pummel over. What else would be there? Yeah, that's basically it from wrong side Chenpod. So I'll experiment with that. Maybe do some more specific rounds from the wrong side Chenpod, and experiment with upper body positioning. Again, I'll try to do the most important takeaways right now. I just speedrun it so I don't have to re-listen to all of this. So, to smash the butterfly hook, you need your head position to be on the side of the butterfly hook. Therefore, for a Chenpod, if your the butterfly hook is not on the side of your underhook, so it's on the side of the head position, that's how it should stay, right? You get a tight underhook with gripping your opponent's far trap. If you're not connecting for double underhooks, or if you just have an underhook in a head position, you want to connect to the far trap and flare your elbow out. With your hand, you want to be either posting or doing the goose grip, so disturbing your opponent's grips. This is all from a Chenpod. Again, you want your head position to be on the side of the butterfly hook so that it's less effective. The passes would be, again, try to step over if their opponent's sleeping. If not, push down with your hand and step over. If they are not letting that happen, if they're framing, you can pin their wrist, use your elbow to push the knee down and step over. If they're bringing a Yoko Sumigaishi hook, use your secondary leg to destickify the hook and hip switch, or go to a leg smash position or a dope mount, whatever you prefer. So the ankle pummel the ankle pummel over the butterfly hook from the Chenpod, I don't believe is as effective, just because you don't have the far side underhook. With the near side underhook, it's a good method to create movement, but again, not my favorite. I would stick to the trying to step over and backstep dilemma. Oh, I haven't covered that. Alright, so when you try to step over, again, I said the 3 methods of stepping over. Again, all of this time, you may want to just pummel your secondary knee. So the one that's already beaten, you can just pummel that in and then go to a knee slice with an underhook. Right, so just again, this I haven't covered, but it's there. Right, so when you're in a Chenpod, right, your left hand is the underhook, on your right hand is the head position, on your right leg is the butterfly hook. Your left leg is basically doing nothing and stabilizing. If at any moment you want to, right, you can pummel it in between your opponent's legs and then go to the side, and that's a knee slice, right? So that is also a threat that you should use. So now, I talked about the 3 types of step over. if they're just bringing their knees close to their chest, you might want to go to the cross position. As I said, in the cross position, you can retract your shin back and get it to your primary leg, to your secondary leg rather, to a side control. If you beat their knee, you can go to a knee and belly. So from the cross position, you beat their opponent's knee with the butterfly hook. You can go to a knee and belly. If you switch to a normal instep pommel from there, from the Chenpod, you switch to a normal instep pommel. You can then pommel your knee over the opponent's knee. So again, your instep is at hull 0 or at hull 1, primarily pinching in. Then when you bring your knee over, you have the choice of going cross hip, which I wouldn't recommend since you have a near side underhook and the opponent can wrestle up. What I would recommend if you're moving from the cross instep to the normal instep pommel would be straight hip. So with the straight hip and the near side underhook in hand position, it's still basically a pass. You can then pike your hips up if they capture a 3/4 mount and use your instep to peel that. Now from the wrong side Chenpod, why do I use an underhook and crossface? Because I still want my head to be on the side of the butterfly hook. So now my right hand is the underhook, but still on my right leg is the butterfly hook. So I would use my left hand as a tight crossface, performing a good cranial shift and keeping tight upper body position from here. Oh, and again for the Chenpod as well, when you get the instep pommel, you may try to smash the legs together, right? But here it is more effective, I believe. So from an underhook and a crossface and the wrong side Chenpod, you may want to threaten with the ankle step over the butterfly. Again, so it has the same benefits as the Chenpod, but even more, because now you have the far side underhook and a crossface, so the opponent cannot really do anything. I mean, again, if you step over, both of your legs are smashed together, you can abandon the pass and go for the exposed back, like rolling over, but I wouldn't recommend it, because from there it's basically a pin and basically a pass to mount. If you maintain the strong underhook and crossface, you step over their ankle. With your ankle, step over their butterfly hook, smash both of their knees together. Also, you can do the same pummels from there. You can open up, and since you have the underhook on the side of the butterfly hook, if you're controlling it sufficiently and flaring your underhook out using the crossface well, you could just theoretically step over the opponent's butterfly hook, right? But if they are keeping it tight, knee to chest connection. So that's when you do the same pommel to the cross. So you get the pommel to the cross, and from there, same thing. Those are the 4 ways you get them out. You can bait the step over or try to step over, which may work since they can't really post on your knee because of the underhook flaring out. But that would be more, I think, attribute dependent. So that would be more like my hip flexors and how far I can get them. So they maintain a knee to chest. That's when you go to the cross pommel. From there you can go to a side control and pass from there, or you can switch to a normal instep pommel, hull 0, hull 1. From there you go to a straight hip and pass from there, or you go to a cross hip where it is a knee slice with an underhook and a crossface, right? And those are basically the options from Chenpod, from the wrong side Chenpod and the Chenpod. Again, when you get the instep pommel, if you're not, like, you can use step over cross to the instep pommel, or you can just try to do the instep pommel. But the first one, which I would do to because again, they're knees to chest, that is the reaction, because I'm trying to step over the butterfly hook, right? If I just pummeled in, they may not bring their knees to chest as tightly, which then you could theoretically still just use your secondary arm Oh no, you have a crossface center, but still, with a instep pommel, you should first try to bring the legs together to a leg smash position. So being in basically haltu, bringing your knee on top of the opponent's knee and trying to smash both of your knees together. And that's when they flare out their knees, and that's when the pommels to a straight hip or cross hip become much easier.